This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit temptationstreats.com to learn more.
Welcome back to Fine Tooning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and Mr. Taylor, whose writings on the industry you can regularly read over on The Wrap, and whose musings on the Mission Impossible movies you can listen to on Light the Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast. He's back, baby! Downside, Drew just got back from 2 solid weeks of travel last night at midnight, right? That's when the plane got in?
Yes, correct. I appreciate your enthusiasm, Jim, as I am on life support at the moment and struggling to stay awake and be healthy. So I appreciate that enthusiasm, Jim.
All right, but again, because Drew is dealing with a world-class case of jet lag, coupled with the fact that you traveled in the bubonic plague section of the plane. Is that what you were explaining pre-gaming?
That's right.
Okay.
No, I was in business, so I was in my little pod in hedgehog mode. But yeah, it did not. When every part of your body is aching from a different direction, it doesn't work out quite as well.
Okay, all right. So, long story short, folks, for Drew's benefit, we're going to make the show quick and easy, a brief news section, and then Drew is going to do a recap of what he saw and experienced at this year's Annecy International Animation Film Festival and Market. And then after that, Drew will talk about he and Katie's visit to the Disneyland Paris resort. First time ever, right, that you've been to those 2 parks in France?
Yes, first time ever and first international park. So
you're
a lot of firsts.
Killing me.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, going to be a quick one, folks. So but it'll be worth it. So let's get to it, shall we? We'll start with this week's box office news, which is brought to you by UnlockedMagic.com, which is where you can get real discounts on Walt Disney World and Universal Orlando tickets, sometimes upwards of 12% off. And just so you know, Unlocked Magic is by the exact same team behind DVC Rental Store and the DVC Resale Market. So just pick your dates, grab your tickets, and then you're on your way with more cash to spend on, well, I guess down at Walt Disney World right now, the hot new collectible is a Prince Charming Regal Carousel popcorn bucket. And then over at Epcot, there's a Spaceship Earth Mickey shaped popcorn bucket, which lights up, cycles through 6 different colors. One's at the Magic Kingdom, one's at Epcot. Both go for $26. Limit 2 per customer. Before we get started here, Drew, anything like that over at Disneyland Paris?
They are not as big on the merch as we are here, although there was some cute stuff. I got a Chez Remy sweatshirt. That was my big get because we went to the restaurant twice and I loved it. So
wow, all right, well, cool. Teaser for the next half part of the show. But
yes, all
right, now to this weekend's box office. All right, so number 1 domestic box office, not a surprise. Universal's live action How to Train Your Dragon. Did $37 million in ticket sales in North America, a 58% fall off in ticket sales from opening weekend. But I think, Drew, as you pointed out previously, anything above a 60% fall off is considered a success these days, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so for those of you keeping total at home, 160 million so far in ticket sales stateside, 197 overseas. So that means live action How to Train Your Dragon, 358 million worldwide in just 10 days in theaters. Which, by the way, puts it in the number 7 spot of top grossing films for the full year for 2025, just behind a tiny little film, barely worth mentioning, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Number 2, on the other hand, was 28 Days Later, which is, sequel, continuation of the fast-moving, raging zombie movie, 28 days later from 2002, and then 28 weeks later from 2007. 30 million domestic, 30 million overseas, a worldwide box office total of 60 million. Did you get to see this before you headed off to France?
I did not, but I'm very excited to see it.
Okay.
I have a ticket tonight to be solo in it, so we'll see if I'm awake at 7 p.m. But yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, there is a fourth film in the series, a direct sequel continuation subtitled The Bone Temple, that's supposed to come out January of next year. Is that right? 2026?
Yeah.
Oh.
And there's a third movie that I think is percolating. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess what I especially find fascinating about this next one, The Bone Temple, Nia DaCosta, who did what? Captain Marvel and then The Marvels, is directing this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
She's directed it. It's done. It's coming.
All right.
I'm ready. Let's bring it on.
Okay. Then brings us to number 3, which is Pixar's Elio, which sold $21 million of tickets in North America. That makes it the lowest opening ever for a Pixar film domestically. That's below what the original Toy Story made over its opening weekend back in November of 95. That was $29.1 million. Likewise, less than what Elemental made over its opening weekend back in June of 2023, and that was $29.6 million. But we talked about this on last week's show, folks. We talked about how quick people were to write off that Peter Sohm film as a giant flop for Pixar, only to then have to retract that claim once Labor Day 2023 rolled around and it was revealed that Elemental had sold just shy of $500 million worth of tickets worldwide. That said, though, this is a little concerning, isn't it, Drew? The 21?
Well, I think it's going to be like Elemental. I still haven't seen the full movie yet, so I cannot comment on its quality, but audiences gave, I think it was an A cinema score.
They did. And it's also, let's be honest here, it's opening in a market with two really strong family films, How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch, both live action. And speaking of Lilo and Stitch, that's Disney's latest live action redo. That's number 4 at the box office with $9.7 million in ticket sales. So to date, that Dean Fleischer Camp film has earned $386 million North America, $523 million overseas, for a worldwide gross of $910 million. And Disney still seems very confident, well before Labor Day, that their live action Lilo and Stitch will join the $1 billion earner club. Again, Mission Impossible 8 rounds out the top 5 domestically, $6.5 million in tickets sold in North America. So what, $178 million domestic to date, $362 million overseas, worldwide gross of $540 million, so over $500 million. That's not too shabby.
No.
But again, as we look ahead, next weekend, June 27th, we have F1 the movie and Megan 2.0. 5 days after that, we get, on July 2nd, we get Jurassic World the Rebirth. 6 days after that, on the July 8th, James Gunn's Superman. And then week after that is Smurfs. And then finally, July 22nd, Fantastic Four First Steps. And people definitely seem jazzed about how summer is going so far at the box office, right? At 18% higher ticket sales than we saw last year.
Yeah, I mean, this is the whole survive till 25 thing that the theaters and studios were saying last year. But, you brought up the Smurfs, and I think that, Elio has the full runway until the Smurfs. I think that, Jurassic World and Superman and some of these other things will, certainly take a bite out of the same apple. But in terms of just straight family fare, it's got a pretty clear runway. So I think that that's why you aren't seeing anybody super nervous about the opening weekend so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, but even so, even when you have a opening weekend all to yourself, I mean, face it, just this past year we had Disney's Snow White, the live-action redo. That wound up only making $87 million total domestically, 118 overseas. So worldwide box office of $205 million, which when you cost $350 million to make, that's a problem. But again, you got to love today's entertainment press because, of course, everyone was talking about how Rachel Zegler, some of the stuff she said out ahead of Snow White being released at theaters and how that potentially damaged the film's box office and how now her career was in ruins. And but you were over in Europe, so did you see any of the coverage for the previews that are going on for Evita at the Palladium Theatre in London?
No, I mean, I saw people going absolutely insane on social media, but nothing else. I mean, there's already talk of her bringing it to Broadway, so.
Yes, yeah. Already. I mean, this thing only began previews on June 14th. It opens officially on July 1st, and it's only a 12-week run. But yeah, it's already the hottest tick in town in London. And as Drew just mentioned, there's already talk about bringing this show to Broadway for the 2025-2026. So much for the whole box office poison thing. Speaking of theater, following last week's interview with Matt West, Nancy and I are going to be traveling to scenic Schenectady, New York this coming Saturday to check out the 30th anniversary production of Disney's Beauty and the Beast, which will be beginning a North American tour next month in Chicago, there at the Cadillac Theater, which, by the way, I want to remind you, based on a hand-drawn film, which, according to a conversation that Mr. Taylor had with Jared Bush, the new chief creative officer of the Walt Disney Animation Studios. In fact, you can read this full story over on the Wrap. First of all, Jared was making his first ever trip to Annecy. Is that true?
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is a little crazy. But you got him to admit that an art form 2D might be returning in some form to the Mouse House, right?
Yes, he was very cagey about it, but this also accompanied the news that Ron Clements is back at Disney Animation.
That is so cool.
I don't know. We'll see. Cool. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Well, now, speaking of which, Drew has all sorts of stuff to report from his trip to Annecy. So tell you what, folks, I'm going to take a quick break here, and then we come back. Drew's going to give us the full skinny on what he saw in France.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Smart water. Pure, crisp taste.
That's really good water.
It's the kind of water that says, I have my life together.
I do feel more sophisticated.
Smart water. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at stitchfix.com.
And we're back. Okay, so Drew, there was a lot of news that came out of Annecy this year. In fact, as I told folks last week, because you were there and there was so much news, it was like, I can't do this. I cannot share this stuff because Drew's there experiencing this stuff in person. He's actually talking with these people. I at best am telling these stories second and third hand. So, in fact, I think one of the only things we shared was the news about Ron Clements, but we came at that from the point of view of his memoir disappeared off of Amazon for a while there.
Yeah, it got pushed back, I think, to next year. It was supposed to come out, I think, in October. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll continue after that. But for now, all right. So again, now this is your second or third trip to Annecy.
This is my third trip to Annecy. I think I have never produced as much content as I did at Annecy. Feel free to go to therap.com and look at the author tab and see just how much stuff I cranked out. But
I was impressed. I was over there today prepping for today's interview. So again, you flew over there on the 14th. Where did you wind up staying?
No, I flew on the 7th.
That's correct. Okay.
I flew on the 7th.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up staying at the Pelican, the Hotel El Pelican, which I loved. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. It was a great, great hotel. Had a great time there, even when the air conditioning didn't work because there was a citywide power outage because of the cold water that generates the air conditioning or something. This was the hottest Annecy I've ever been to. So, yeah.
Wow. Now, was Katie there with you the full time, or did she fly over and join you later?
She joined me in Paris. I took the train at the end of the week to Paris, which is actually really lovely, and I recommend everybody do it because it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so to start at the top, so to speak, I mean, a lot of news, a lot of stuff.
Yes.
I mean, Matt Groening got honored with a Christelle. Nickelodeon looked back at, 30 years? But what for you was the highlight this time around?
Well, I really loved the 25th anniversary of Cartoon Studios network thing. That was great. It had Gendy, Craig McCracken, Rebecca Sugar, J.G. Quintel, Adam Muto, and Penn Ward. And it was just a really great look at the kind of evolution of the studio. And then obviously there was a lot of news that came out of that, including that, there is the Steven Universe show that is coming out.
Yeah.
And also that the Gumball show is going to Prime Video, which I thought was very interesting. They're both actually going to Gumball is going to Hulu, and Steven Universe is going to Prime Video, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, well, this past week, what with the Dr. Zeus news about that they're going to YouTube. I mean, it just said, all of this animation popping up in different places, but But anyway, back to Annecy. I mean, was there anything that genuinely surprised you coming out of this year's festival?
Well, what was really surprising was how solid the Pixar presentation was. That was maybe the highlight of the week for me. Their slate is just so good, and they showed off so much stuff. It was really incredible. I was really blown away. I saw the same 26 minutes of Elio that I've seen before, and I still have not seen the movie, so we will talk about that. When you go to cheap Tuesday night, Jim, There we
go. You and I will chat further down the line. On the other hand, if you actually go over to the Wrap, folks, Drew has written a wonderful piece about the Toy Story 5 presentation that was done. And can you talk a little bit about that? Or
they showed the first probably 10 minutes of the movie, which is this opening scene that is a bunch of Buzz Lightyears that have washed up on the beach. A shipping container has fallen off a boat, and they wake up on a beach, and they're the new Buzz that have this kind of high-tech control system. And they kind of all wake up at the same time, and it's really, really funny and really different. Just a really interesting, weird opening to the movie, and it's awesome.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And we sort of got a sense of how things set in motion in Bonnie's bedroom, who's, by the way, as you mentioned in the article, she's 8, that they've aged her up.
Yes. Well, they introduced a new character called Lily Pad, which is a screen based toy.
Okay.
And some people were saying that they announced Lily Pad as the villain, and I don't think that that's actually true. I mean, they didn't announce it at the presentation. The character could still be the villain, but they did not announce a voice actor or anything for that. But they did announce that Joan Cusack was coming back, which is not a huge surprise, but it's still good to know. Yeah.
And I think you also mentioned as part of, again, your rap article that the new dynamic for Bonnie's bedroom is what? Jesse's in charge and Buzz is second in command. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's her lieutenant. Yeah, in Jesse's bedroom.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to see how these new characters, that they introduced. They didn't introduce it at the panel, but they announced that Conan O'Brien was going to be a character called Smarty Pants.
Yeah.
And we don't have any kind of clarification on who that is, but just another interesting element. I was just shocked that the animation was finished for Toy Story, near finished for Toy Story 5. I mean, there was an entire presentation on Monday for Goat, which looks really good, but that is coming out in February, and there was no finished footage. It was so rough. There was just some scenes were just blocking.
Okay.
And so it was interesting to see that Toy Story 5, which comes out next June, has more finished movie done. But this could be because of the pipeline at Pixar. And, they got a lot of things, a lot of trains on the car. So, yeah.
This is true. And speaking of which, I think you also mentioned that they showed Hoppers or a good chunk of Hoppers as part of.
Oh my God, Hoppers is going to be so good. I was so blown away by the footage. It is so funny. The style is great. It's so charming. The whole world is really charming, and I cannot wait for Hoppers. And then obviously, the big reveal was Enrico Casarosa's new movie, Gatto, which they showed. And is done in this illustrative style that is absolutely beautiful. They showed a concept art of the cat, whose name is Nero, who's the main character, and then they pressed a button and made it move, and everybody was absolutely shocked by it because it's done in this incredible kind of painterly style. Yeah, and for those of us who are Luca diehards,
there we go.
This is very exciting.
No. And also, the bullet point description of this is what? It's a cat who lives in Venice who hates water and his life there or his adventures there.
And he's a black cat, Jim, so everyone is very scared of him. And he's a cat. He gets embroiled with some cat gangsters, he's in over his head, and then he becomes something that he never thought he would be, which is a house cat to a young girl who lives in Venice. It looks very cute. Yeah,
this sounds and you're not wrong. When I saw that piece of concept art, it's like, Luca. Yeah. So very, very excited about this one. Can't wait. What else presentation-wise impressed you?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think of what else. I saw they showed off a lot of Smurfs, which looks cute. And I had to leave the Paramount presentation before the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles short, but I heard it was incredible. There was the Stranger Things animated presentation as part of the Netflix thing, which was very cool. Which looks really fun and interesting. And Bad Guys 2 looks great.
Okay. Link later on this summer. Now, again, this being your third Annecy, was the vibe different this year? Because, I mean, face it, marching into this Annecy, there was all this talk about, what's happening in the AI space and what that's going to do to animation as an industry.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd spent more time at MIFA or any time at MIFA because that is sort of the, the marketplace part of it. I think AI is on everybody's mind. But I think the great thing about Annecy is that it showed off all this amazing animation that is done by actual human beings. And it was just very lovely to be in that atmosphere around these creatives and seeing things like the new Raphael Bob Waxberg show, which is incredible, called Long Story Short. Jim, this is going to be your new favorite Netflix show as a BoJack fanatic.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, you were talking about creatives, and again, that half the fun of Annecy is dealing with all of your other folks who are over there who are jet lagged and out of. Did you bump into anybody interesting, or who'd you get to chat with?
Yeah, I mean, at Annecy, you bump into the same 5 people at every party, which is great. So I got to see Hayden Jones from ILM, and I did a Chris Sanders talk on one day, where we went over his entire filmography for about an hour, and that was really wonderful. He was great. Yeah, I mean, it was a lovely time. And, I got to see Penn Ward, who, I grew up with. And I walked in the room and said, Penn, do you have a new cell phone number? And he said, no, I was just ignoring you. So that's the kind of, brutal honesty that you can only get from somebody who you've known for 25 years.
There you go. Oh, well, again, it sounds like a wonderful time. But again, you were there for the full week there, and then hopped on the train and headed over to Disneyland Paris, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay. And we'll get to another set of stories about Drew's adventures in France in a moment. But first, this.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. And as your vacation maximizationer, I'm going to make sure you hear the maximum sizzle of Comfort Inn's free hot breakfast. Let's get real close. Maximum apple. Now that's fresh crispimization. Maximum waffle. Hear that crunch. And that's maximum coffee. Oh yeah, that's the pour I'm talking about. Breakfast maximized before hitting the road. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injury is an additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
All right, and we're back. Okay, confession time, folks. Me personally, I have yet to get to Disneyland Paris. Likewise, haven't been to the 2 parks at the Tokyo Disney Resort. Likewise, Hong Kong or Shanghai. I will make an effort to get to the Abu Dhabi park when that opens in 2030. But Drew bagged his first international parks this time, and you did it in style. You and Katie stayed at least for a couple of nights, right? At the Disneyland Paris Hotel, the one that's over the entrance.
Oh yeah, we were on we were part of the Castle Club gym, so we were on the concierge level that has a direct elevator to the entrance of the park.
You're killing me.
It was pretty sweet. Yeah, our room. This is what Len always tells me is that if it's not labeled as a castle-facing room, if it's not directly looking at the castle, they can't label it as a castle-facing room. But we went out on our balcony, turned to the left, could see the castle. I mean, we were literally right. People were looking up at us as they were leaving for the day, that kind of thing. It was pretty amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we did it up.
Very cool. Okay, well, to get started here, people often talk about when they visit the original Disneyland out in California after years of visiting the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World in Florida, or vice versa. There's this kind of weird, disconnected feeling. I mean, because things are the same, but they're different. Did you have the same experience at Disneyland Paris?
Yeah. I mean, it was such a thrill to be there because, Jim, as you know, I'm obsessed with Disney in the 90s. And I remember it when it opened, and it was, I remember the special that was hosted by Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith.
There you go.
Do you remember this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was so much publicity around it and around the shortcomings and So to actually go and be there was a real thrill. And you're right, it is sort of disorienting because you're like, this is where Adventureland usually is, but it's not quite the same Adventureland. And, but yeah, what a beautiful park. It is just, it's stunning. And it hasn't really been changed that much in like 20 years.
Well, in fact, what was so interesting is I kept hearing from our mutual friend, Mr. Schul, who was, said, apart from Droll again, because you had questions while you were there. I mean, what were you asking Schul about?
I was asking him specifically about, there's a building. So Discoveryland has seen better days. We'll say that.
Okay.
Hyperspace Mountain sucks. And I was just thinking about, the turn of the century version of that attraction and all of that the entire time I was there. But there's this giant building sort of buttressing Discoveryland that is just completely empty. And I had no idea what it was. And there was a water feature out front that was drained. It was really interesting to see the differences between the sort of like show and also cast member mentality at the Disneyland Paris park. Jim, if you've ever wanted to know what a Disney park that is staffed almost entirely by the bored 18-year-old kid at the Valvoline down the street, this is that park. So yeah, I was just asking, and then he was like, "Give me some pictures," and so I was sending him pictures, and I was sending him pictures of Crush's coaster, which is obviously his baby in the Studios park. But that's what I was asking. I was asking him about this weird building that I saw that I couldn't figure out what it was. But God, there's some amazing stuff in Discoveryland. And then what was really weird was that there is this kind of like seasonal thing called Lounge Lightspeed, which is on top of their Star Tours building, and it's like a Coca-Cola branded thing. And we went up there one day, nobody there, Jim, but there was a BDX droid. The little cute droid.
Yeah.
And there was the guy, the character's name, who I forget what his name is. But it was literally like a one-on-one like interaction with this droid. Nobody else was around. It was so cute. You'll never get that close or that personal with that droid in that capacity. It was amazing. That park is absolutely fascinating to me.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to go soon before they rip it all the good stuff out. Because, the other big part is that Disney Village, which was, as you know, a postmodern, I wouldn't say paradise, but maybe ground zero for postmodern architecture. Is all getting ripped out. It's all getting redone. Annette's was still there, I think, just because it's so popular, which is an amazing diner that's like 50s via, the Memphis group kind of aesthetic. But I was pretty blown away by the Disneyland park for sure.
Okay, now, but again, there's the classic Disneyland Paris that opened in '92, and then of course there is the park that Mr. Schul worked on, the Walt Disney Studios park in Paris, soon to become the Disney Adventure World, and you actually got there just as they sort of redid the retail corridor entrance soundstage thing, right?
Yeah. Which was cool. It doesn't look that different than I think what it looked like before based on photos, but it's this kind of giant indoor kind of nighttime scene. It's such an insanely bizarre decision to make that the entrance to the park. Because I love the arcades that kind of flank Disneyland Paris's main street. It's really, really lovely. And they were actually selling Eddie's book of lithographs from the 1920s version of Main Street. You remember that?
Yeah. I have to admit, I've been eyeballing that.
Yeah. They sold like a postcard version, which I almost got. But yes, so it was really under construction in the park, and they showed kind of concept art, which is like the new, like that's the entrance to the park, but there's going to be kind of a new thoroughfare that ends with Arendelle and that big lake.
Yeah.
And there's like a lot of flat rides that are going to be over there. There's just so little to do in that park. It's kind of astounding, but Crush's coaster had the longest waits by far. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do their Cars version of Catastrophe Canyon, or
no? It was actually down. That was the only thing that was down really between both parks.
Interesting.
Besides stuff like, the riverboat in the Rivers of America being just completely mothballed for unknown. I mean, Disneyland Paris has such an insane vibe where it's like the peak of Imagineering plus like a disused regional Six Flags. Like those are the two competing kind of vibes over there.
It's so interesting that you say that, because Shul and I were just talking about this last week, that, the irony is that when Disneyland Paris opened up in April of 1992. I mean, it was a world-class resort. In fact, when you walk through the door, you had your choice of 6 different brochures in 6 different languages. But as Shul has pointed out, that over time, it's basically devolved into just what you said. It's a regional theme park. But mind you, the region it services is France and basically Belgium. And it does quite well on the back of just serving the locals there, because you've got 30 million of them in the immediate area.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of Spanish. We heard like Spaniard Spanish, and then we heard a lot of Italian too. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that you've done it, is this a one and done, or do you feel the need to get back there someday? Or
I would go back. I mean, what was interesting was that every major ride was operating while we were there. You hear stories about like, oh, we were in Tokyo and 9 of the rides were closed down or whatever. But the Big Thunder Mountain actually reopened from a like almost 6-month refurbishment on our last day there. So we got up, ran over there, and did it. I mean, the vibe of that park really is, I feel like the Imagineers were thinking, okay, we are going to do like the ultimate version of each of these attractions. So, I think I was really impressed with Pirates. I was really impressed with It's a Small World. Big Thunder, I thought was the best that I've done so far. Okay. Phantom Manor, I adored. And then, things like I wish I had done Space Mountain from the Earth to the Moon. Even I would have even taken Space Mountain Mission 2 at that point. But
but the sheer irony of this whole thing, I don't know if you've seen just in the last week to 10 days, but they're selling merch, Space Mountain from the Earth to the Moon merch now that commemorates the old ride vehicle, the old the Columbiad, the cannon on the outside of the building. I mean, it's like you can't go in anymore, but you can buy the merch.
Yeah, I saw that. I will be purchasing some of that, I hope. But I mean, the weird thing is that there's just like, again, it's like there's Mickey's PhilharMagic is in the Discoveryland Theater, and it's like nobody is going. And the whole structure is built into the railroad station and all this stuff. And there's just so much that's unused land too. Like there's an area beyond Phantom Manor that's just sitting there on the Rivers of America, and they haven't done anything with it. I mean, the last, I think, major addition was the Indiana Jones ride, which sucks.
Well, by the way, I have to ask, your bride is not quite the Disney diehard that you are, but what was her take on Disneyland Paris?
She really loved it, and she has celiac, so that was the big issue, was like finding things for her to eat, and everybody was very accommodating, and I mean, we loved Chez Remy is amazing.
Yeah, you mentioned you ate there twice on that trip.
Yeah. Because there were a lot of gluten-free options for the entree, and it's also like the best theming. I mean, to get off a ride and walk, past a restaurant is pretty cool. So, yeah.
All right. Well, you being the guy who bought the full size, well, not full size, but the Star Tours ride vehicle, I have to assume you brought something back from. Again, you were mentioning as we were pre-gaming the Chez Remy spirit jersey. What'd you get?
I got the Chez Remy sweatshirt. I got a bunch of pins. I got a pin of like the clock that's on the Disneyland Hotel facade. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff I was looking at. I should have brought this to show you, Jim, but, we have the great Art of Disneyland Paris book that came out last year, but there are also individual books for different attractions. So I got the Phantom Manor and Space Mountain books that are kind of part of that set, which are very nice.
Yeah. I want to say I know of one more, the Pirates.
Yes, there's
book.
a pirate. I didn't get the Pirates because I was like, it's not that different, and I was kind of eyeballing if Air France was going to ding me on my there we go heftiness of my luggage. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, no. Good call. But all right. Well, again, I'm so glad that you guys got to do this trip. That you did so well at Annecy, and as we mentioned, folks, you really want to go over to the Wrap and read the full stories that from Drew at that animation festival and market. But at the same time, thanks for sharing. What sounds like a great time at Disneyland Paris. And speaking of great stuff, if you're not already listening to Drew's other podcast, Light the Fuse, which is the official Mission Impossible podcast that Mr. Taylor does with Charles Hood, you are missing out on some truly great behind-the-scenes stories when it comes to modern era Hollywood. And speaking of which, what's going on over there on Light the Fuse these days?
We're sort of plotting our next few shows, so yeah, stay tuned. But we did a big deep dive with Christopher McQuarrie and Eric Jenderson, the writers/director of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. So check that out. I think it's a good chat there.
Okay, and speaking of podcasts you can check out, we have a couple of them here at Jim Hill Media. Maybe you want to check out. We have Disney Dish with Len Testa. We have the Epic Universal podcast that I do with Eric Hersey. He's a gentleman who produces a lot of the shows here. Likewise, we have I Want That Too, the Disney Merch podcast I do with Eric's lovely bride, Lauren. Also want to remind you folks about Manufacturing the Magic. That's our themed entertainment history podcast that we host here. That's produced by Noah and Shelley Valladolid, and they've got 3 or 4 new episodes. We'll begin posting them shortly. And speaking of new-ish episodes, Disney Unpacked, the project that Len and I do for Patreon with Jim Schul. We just recently posted a podcast about the Muppets at the Disney company, focusing on what happened after they finally did acquire the Muppets in February 2004. And we are right now, in honor of the reopening of Test Track next month, working on a history of that Epcot attraction. So as we close up shop here, folks, Mr. Taylor and I want to ask a favor of you. You can head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review not just this show, but also Light the Fuse. And beyond that, Drew, where can the nice folks find you on social media?
At Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt, mostly on Instagram and X. But where can they find you, Jim?
I am on X and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and then over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. Okay, folks, as you heard, neither Drew nor I have seen the completed Elio, but we will have seen it by next week's show, and we will talk about it then. But on behalf of Mr. Taylor, especially given that he just got home, thanks for taking part in this week's show, Drew. We definitely missed you. And thanks to you folks for listening to this week's Fine Tooning, and Drew and I will be back soon.